Good morning, everyone. Okay, today we'll continue our book reading, The Toyota Way to Service Excellence by Jeffrey K. Liker and Karen Ross. We're in chapter 3 of our book reading, which says philosophy number 1, philosophy of long-term thinking. Remember, it defined philosophy as a long-term thinking or strategies or things you do for a long time, not for a short time. Last week, we looked at philosophy as the moral compass of an organization. What it simply means is that philosophy is simply a principle or for guiding practical affairs of an organization. Today on page 59, we're looking at the limitations of machine thinking, still in chapter 3, philosophy of long-term thinking. So the limitation of machine thinking. So from an early age, we are taught to break apart problems in order to make complex tasks and subjects easier to deal with. But this creates a bigger problem. We lose the ability to see the consequences of our action, and we lose a sense of connection to a larger whole. Peter Singh. Machine thinking is a characteristic of early 20th century industry, when the owners of capital had an insurmountable competitive advantage. If you owned the factory, the means of production, the workers came piling in and the money followed. The motivation of these workers was clear. They needed money. In fact, the most direct way to motivate them was paying by the piece. Produce more pieces and you get more money. In the early 20th century, Frederick Taylor, the father of industrial engineering, turned this into a philosophy he called scientific management. He had the following characteristics: scientific work design, scientific selection, scientific training, and scientific incentive paying. Scientific work design. Engineers scientifically study the work and break it down into small pieces that are each precisely defined to be the one best way to do job. Scientific selection. Workers are scientifically selected to have the capability to do work, often meaning physical strength for men or dexterity for women. Scientific training. Workers are trained in the one best way to do the job. Scientific incentive pay. The payment scheme financial rewards workers when they produce more units, and thus it provides more profit for the owner. Frederick Taylor was genuine in his belief that scientific management was the key that would unlock shared prosperity for the worker and for society. The triggers for that shared prosperity were, on the one hand, brilliant engineers who did all the thinking for the enterprise, and on the other hand, self-interest that provided the most efficient roads to the only thing that matters to workers or owners: money. Fast forward to 1986, and Eli Goldratt seemed to make this even more explicit in his wildly successful business novel, The Goal, in which Jonah, a kind of guru, teaches a business owner how to build a successful business. Jonah repeatedly asks what the goal of the business is. The only acceptable answer to make money. The theory of constraints provided the only solution needed to meet the goal. Find and break any constraints to make money. Goldratt created a business based on training. Jonas, who were to run a computer simulation to find the constraints and become the engineers who did the thinking for the enterprise. They were carrying on the traditions of Taylor's scientific management. These methods and others led to what system thinkers call reductionist thinking. A system can most simply be defined as a set of interconnected parts. When we focus on fixing one part or one connection to the exclusion of working on the system, we are reducing the problem to the part only. This leads to sub-optimization of the system, which leads to all sort of alignment. Take for example an organization that Karen worked with, in which a problem in one department was solved by eliminating the seemingly time-consuming production of a weekly report. The people in the department felt that they had done their due diligence and involved everyone who used the report in determining the solution. And so imagine their surprise when they started receiving angry phone calls and emails from other departments in far areas of the company asking, what happens to my weekly report? I can't do my work without it. Decision makers in the department doing the problem solving didn't set out to disrupt the work of other departments. They simply had no idea that the information contained in the report was used in so many different ways by so many different departments. They were too disconnected to even imagine who their customers were from that report. Machine thinkers view even complex human organization as big machines. Humans are part of the machine, interchangeable parts. We even hear organizations describe this. We function like a well-oiled machine. This type of organization is the ultimate bureaucracy. Each person specializing in his part, performing the job the one best way as determined by an expert on work design. Process improvement is also handled by experts trained in one best methodology for improving process. And the experts in industrial engineering or Lean Six Sigma see their job as control, including preventing others from tampering with their perfect process design. It is now a well-known story that this was efficient and even effective in an age of little competition and relatively slow changes in technology and the market. Companies like Ford and General Motors could be the king of industry by owning the biggest, most modern equipment and depending on the economics of scale. People could be ushered in and out of position with very little training, and as long as they did not mess up too badly, customers will get a car that was good enough for their relatively low expectation. The model worked until Japanese invention in 1970 that brought much higher quality, fuel-efficient car from companies like Mazda and Honda and Toyota. Then it all broke loose. The auto industry began to study the Japanese management system and the quality revolution was born. Gurus like Dr. W. Edwards Deming preached a focus on serving customers and developing the capability to design and build in quality. Unfortunately for the Western auto companies, it did not compute. What Deming was talking about was system thinking, which did not register to die-hard machine thinkers. I recall a friend who was sent by GM to NUMMI, a joint venture of DM and Toyota, in 1984 to learn and teach the Toyota production system and help transform GM. He came back to GM to try to teach what he has learned and said it was like trying to explain what Technicolor is to people who had only ever seen in black and white. In fact, it is the black and white perspective that puts blinders on machine thinkers, and it makes it difficult to understand the complexity of system. Unfortunately, what we see in modern 21st century organization is a lot of machine thinking. Bureaucracy reign supreme. Karen has been battling for a decade to teach Toyota way thinking in different service organizations, but the progress is slow and there are a huge obstacles to overcome. These obstacles has everything to do with machine thinking. Okay, this is where we'll stop for our reading this morning, describing and telling us about the limitations in machine thinking. So I hope this page or this page we've just read, these pages we've just read this morning has been explanatory, telling us the importance of system and how it's supposed to work and how it should work. So this is your stop for our reading this morning. Thank you.